Veseli smo, da je v naši družbi tudi predstavnik Belrona, Irving, z več kot 20 let izkušenj na različnih vodilnih mestih znotraj Belrona, trenutno pa je na mestu direktorja prodaje in operative franšiznih držav. Mr. Irving, the stage is yours.
Before I start, I would like to just say a few words about our partnership with Carglass Slovenia. Unfortunately, the gentleman we wanted to come today, the guy who originally signed the contract with Peter, he couldn't make it. So the guys asked me to share a few words. But what I actually done was I contacted Mark van Holst and said, can you just share with me how the relationship started? And I think it's just appropriate that I read some points that Mark put in the email to me. So Mark says he first met Peter Vipac back in Tallinn in 2001. And at the time, our holding company, Detron, owned Davis. And as part of that session in Tallinn, Carglass were asked to present the franchise concept to the Avis team. So they struck a relationship. Mark has put in this email here that the negotiation was tough, Peter, and it wasn't easy. But we did the deal back in 2001. And in 2002, we opened our first branch in Cosmos, Ljubljana, which had, I believe, pits in the ground, and you had to fill the oil pits. Yeah. Fast forward to back in June 2002, we did 2 windscreen replacements, 2 windscreen repairs, and a remove and refit in our branch. 5 jobs in the month. Already a good sign, Diane, 50% repair. Good. And then we just seemed to grow. And my role as Belron is we take the best practices and all the learnings that we take from all around the world, and we come to this team quarterly or when requested to say, hey, we've got something that we think you can use. But the overruling thing that we do as Belron is based on for the customer. How can we further improve the customer journey? This team in Slovenia is very unique because when we look after so many countries, we have 40 countries. We need to see actions because it inspires us that we've made the right decision and taken the right solution to these guys. And what Mark has said here, and I fully support what he says, is Carglass Slovenia has always been one of the best, if not the best, franchise country out of our 22 franchise markets. I used to work in the corporate markets. We have 20 countries corporate, and I would definitely put Carglass Slovenia within the top 5 of how they run this business.
Thank you, Eddie.
Everything they do, everything they do is based on the customer experience. And Uros showed in his video that we have consistently high customer experience. We use them as an example. If we're going into a new market or we have interest from a market that wants to take a franchise with Belron, we always say, go and take a look at Slovenia. Yeah? So from me and Belron and from Mark van Holst, Peter, Dejan, Simon, Uros, Anya, Boris, and Dejan, congratulations and thanks for the last 20 years from us in Belron. Yeah? So now the easy part. So this is a presentation I've given all across the world to many, many insurers. And this is about future trends and how it impacts our joint businesses as a vehicle glass repair, replacement and recalibration company, and you, the insurance companies, the leasing companies and our partners. And the way I say this to you guys is we've got this market knowledge to almost give you guys a crystal ball to see what the future is looking like for glass repair, replacement and recalibration. We'll give you some updates on automotive trends that will impact vehicle glass repair, replacement. Discuss these impacts on the trends on both our joint businesses. and show you how Carglass Slovenia and Belron are prepared to deal with these trends. So what I want to do is just to give you an idea of how fast this is moving. 15 months ago, I did a very similar presentation to this in Poland, where we showed a video of some work that Mercedes and Bosch were doing in a car park in Munich airport. So you drive your Mercedes S-Class into the airport, and you can call up a valet service. You get out of your car, and because there's infrastructure in the airport building, the car will drive away and park. You head off on your holiday or your business trip. And when you come back, you go on the app, you recall your Mercedes, and the car comes back and collects you. But this relied heavily on infrastructure within Munich airport. But now we see these cars coming out of China, and they do not rely on infrastructure. All this technology is purely in the car. This just gives you an idea of how fast this has moved from the concept with Mercedes and Bosch in Munich airport. And now this update was given out over the air for this car. Same solution, relies on no infrastructure in the car park. So the 6 key trends I'll cover today is the road to autonomy, autonomous driving, more complex ADAS systems, and in particular fusion of these ADAS systems, the shift to software-defined vehicles. We'll take a deeper dive into some of the challenges that we have as a VGRR company with the vehicle encryption, the electrification of the car park, and show you how more heads-up display and more augmented reality are going to become standard features in even your entry-level cars, and in particular on the glass. And then we'll just cover off how vehicle glass complexity is continuing to grow. So the road to autonomy continues. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this. This is the Society of the Automotive Engineers, levels of automation. Now, if we go back 8 years ago, everybody had this view that in 10 years or by 2030, all cars were going to be self-driving. Yeah? The brakes have been pretty much put on that at the moment. And what we're seeing now is the vehicle manufacturers are spending more investment and time and technology in what we call SAE level 2 plus. So that's about making the car safer, more comfortable, valet parking, convenience, And we've even had some car manufacturers, Mercedes, now say they are no longer in the race for self-driving cars. Yeah? So what we see now is the vehicle manufacturers are spending a lot of money and technology in this area of level 2 here. But there is going to be a very significant change in the next 2 years because the European Union is going to mandate that every new car manufactured in 2024 must have ADAS-equipped systems in the vehicle, which will mean all of these cars must have cameras. So all your entry-level cars will have ADAS equipped in them, and it's been mandated by the EU. We already see some markets that are already starting to change legislation about self-driving vehicles. And some big news that came out this year, in March 22, Mercedes announced accepting liability for collisions or crashes caused by SAE level 3 technology. Yeah? So they're really starting to change how they do things. We see some other work in the UK where they're preparing for these vehicles to drive or have certain conditions where the driver can take his hands off the wheel and the car will in effect take over. So this just gives you an insight of how this is driving it forward in the different markets. Coming out of the US, the NHTSA ordered same-day crash reporting on vehicles that have SAE level 2 or SAE level 2+. And the fines are quite significant. If they do not report this information in the set time, they're fined nearly $23,000 per day. There are nearly 400 crashes in 11 months of these cars with SAE level 2, and % of them were Teslas. Yeah? So this is very much on the government's safety agenda to monitor how these cars are performing with this technology in them. But we do see, we view as Belron that there will be some level. We've done a piece of research work with TRL in the UK where we measured the longevity of the accuracy of these cameras in the cars. So if you imagine your wife gets in a car or you get in the car and you bang your head off the interior mirror, that's where the camera is on the car for these ADAS systems. So the question is that camera now not pointing in the right direction? So we've done some research and we have shown that over a period of time, the accuracy of these cameras does deteriorate with general road and wear and tear and road conditions. We start to see a move to more complex ADAS systems. And what we start to see now is sensor fusion. So all the different sensors on the car are talking to each other. And the challenge that causes us is when we do a glass replacement at the moment, we know we need to recalibrate the camera that's fixed on the windscreen. But now what the vehicle manufacturers are saying is if you recalibrate this camera, you have to recalibrate all the other devices in the car. So this is a trend that we're starting to see. You can see here more and more of these systems are on the car. It tends to be where the damage is done on the car, the front of the car and the back of the car. And this is what makes the cost of repairing these vehicles more expensive. Grow and grow. And we as Belron in 2021, 1.9 recalibrations that we had to perform after a glass replacement. Our US business is doing over 30,000 recalibrations a week at the moment. And this is just going to get bigger and bigger as they mandate these safety systems in the cars. This just gives you an idea of the impact when this European regulation comes in, the impact on what we call the car park. And this is a German example. Currently, 32% of the German car park have a camera. 2024, the new rules will come in, that will jump to 59%. And then another example would be Austria. The same, currently 40%, and that will jump to 63%. So you need to be acutely aware that what you would normally see as a low-level car, not a lot of extras on the car, will now come with really expensive camera and radar equipment in that car as standard. And when it comes to glass replacement, you need to factor in for the glass replacement, this car will need a recalibration. As the car manufacturers spend more time in this area of level 2+, the cameras start to get smarter. So they're developing infrared cameras, 4D cameras, for specific situation, being able to identify cyclists, being able to identify which way the pedestrian is going to walk, left, right, are they going to walk on the road? So as we develop, as these technologies develop, these systems will get smarter. And this is a new one. This is from BMW. So I think 2 years ago, we started picking up from the OEM repair instructions that some of the vehicle manufacturers, because of sensor fusion, are now stipulating that when you do an ADAS recalibration, you also need to perform a reset on the rain sensor. Yeah? And this came to us, I would say, I think 2 years ago, Dan. We had to make some changes. And this was us picking up this information from the OEM repairer instructions, where they now stipulate that if you do an ADAS recalibration, you have to perform a reset of the moisture sensor. And BMW have taken this a step further. And just to explain it, we'll just show a quick video.
With brake drying, when the windshield wiper rain sensor detects moisture on the windshield, the brake pads intermittently move close to the rotors to eliminate any moisture between the two surfaces. The result is dry brakes and superior stop.
So now when we do a BMW windscreen replacement, we have to perform a recalibration and we have to perform the reset because these two sensors are now linked to the braking system. This just gives you an idea of some of the technology that's coming in the car. So we have the camera, the mono, stereo, trifocal. We have radar and LiDAR. And this is where we start to see the sensors to be fused. So if we do a glass replacement, we need to refer to the OEM instructions to say, do we need to perform a LiDAR recalibration? Do we need to perform a radar recalibration? So we strictly follow the rules, and the guys here strictly follow the OEM repair guides. But this is causing us challenges on how we operate our business model, because we know going forward in the future, as we have more and more cameras to recalibrate, we actually need more space. So some of the vehicle manufacturers are coming up with measurements that we need 15 meters behind the car to perform the recalibration and 8 meters in front of the car. So we've had to completely rethink, and are rethinking as Belron, what we call our branch footprint. Yeah? To make sure that when the car comes to us, we can successfully and safely perform the glass replacement and the recalibration at the same time. That's a convenience for the customer, and it's safety for the customer, knowing that when they take the car, those systems are operating. This example here on the bottom right is a test. It's a test environment, but that is the amount of boards that you need to successfully perform a 360 recalibration. You can see that's just absolutely huge. And it's worth mentioning, every single one of those boards is unique to a car manufacturer. Yeah? So you have a specific Mercedes board, you have a specific BMW board, and so on and so on. Yeah? So it's not just about the software, you need the hardware for these cameras to recalibrate. And then we have our friends in Tesla. Tesla do have a self-calibrate solution in their car, but they do not have that in the OEM repair guide, so we do not use this recalibration process. Basically, the car can be put by the driver in a recalibration mode. They'll drive the car, and then the car will recalibrate. But it is not in the OEM repairer's guide, so we do not follow that guide. We will never give a customer a car back without the car being recalibrated. So as we move to more software-defined vehicles, we know now that all new cars are connected, yeah? And the impact on that at the moment is it creates new business models for the vehicle manufacturers. They can do remote diagnostics, over-the-air updates, just like your iPhone. There can be updates sent to the cars. OEMs influence the driver's behavior, the driver's decision-making. But what they've also been doing is causing issues for us getting access to these cars. Yeah. There's other ways these OEM business models are working. So here we have BMW, for example. So currently at the moment, you buy a BMW, you request heated seats. What will happen in the future, you will buy a BMW, it will have heated seats in the car, but you have to pay a subscription to have them switched on. Yeah? So these are the types of models that the vehicle manufacturers are coming up with at the moment. Here we have another one, Volkswagen, the ID Aero. If you wanted to drive your car on a highway that has SAE level 3 approval, where you can let the car drive by itself, you have to pay €7 per hour to activate that in the car. So in the past, when all this stuff was in the car and it was free, you're now having to pay for these luxuries. Other examples, adaptive headlights in BMWs. They're on the car, you have to pay to have them switched on. Now that causes us a challenge in Carglass and Belron. We don't know when we go to that car to do the windscreen replacement if that system is switched on or switched off. And then after the windscreen replacement, the policyholder may say, actually, I want that now. That's why we're going to have to make sure that we have to recalibrate every single car that has an ADAS system, regardless if it's switched on or switched off. OEMs are finding new business opportunities in the car insurance market. Yeah? So here we have Hyundai, who are working with Verisk, rating the driver score and able to push insurance offers direct to the car. And then we have another one with LexisNexis. They've partnered with Mercedes, GM, Mitsubishi. Again, they're able to push car insurance down to the owner of the car. So this is a complete new business model for the OEMs because the cars are connected. But the problems that we're experiencing at the moment and we're working on is more vehicles are becoming encrypted. So the vehicle manufacturers are putting secure gateways into the cars. So in the past, you guys know, if an aftermarket wants to connect to an aftermarket repairer or a body shop wants to connect to a car, then they just simply plug in the OBD port and they can connect to the car. But now they're implementing these secure gateways. So where we come across a secure gateway, we can still connect to the car, but we have to go through the OEM server. And some of the OEMs are actually charging us now for that luxury. Yeah? But this is some news from us in Belron in 2022. We came across Fiat models in Italy where they blocked us having access to the car. And under the EU regulations, we're saying this is anti-competitive. So as Belron, we filed a lawsuit against FCA in Germany, and this has now been referred to the EU because we're saying that because of these secure gateways, it's anti-competitive for the aftermarket to work on these vehicles. So the team in Slovenia will update you guys more when we have more information on this. And then we see there's data protection laws because of these connected vehicles and because we're having to connect to these cars. There's strict data protection laws that we need to follow. So these are just some examples in the EU. And some of these laws are having to be rewritten because of the access that we need to the car. Who owns the data of that driver? Who can get access to the data of that driver? Because all that information is stored within the car or on the OEM server. We know there's a huge push in Europe on the electrification of the car park, and the signs are, and I'm sure you guys see this, is that electric vehicles, and this was some research that was done by Thatcham in the UK in 2021, that said, broadly speaking, the electric vehicles are more expensive to repair. Yeah, we're seeing that in all our markets, not only on the glass, but also on the body repairs and such like. But the vehicle manufacturers, this just gives you an idea of how the vehicle manufacturers are moving towards the electrification of the car park. So just to pick some, Volvo, by 2030, you will not be able to buy a normal combustion engine from Volvo. They will go 100% electric. You see some other brands there, Jaguar, historically a British racing brand. They're going to have 60% of their brand will be electric. And this is just going to continue. Yeah? So this is being driven by rules, regulations, but also the vehicle manufacturers are really getting behind this push towards the electrification of the car park. And then I mentioned the government mandates on electric vehicles. They're really being pushed in the governments to get these electric vehicles up. Now, the biggest challenge at the moment, I'm sure here, and certainly where I live in Ireland, is the infrastructure for all these electric vehicles. But this just gives you an insight into what's happening in the world with this push to the electrification of the car park. This is Germany. So currently, 2.7 of the total car park is electric. And by 2026, there'll be a massive jump to just under 14%. Yeah? So as insurers, leasing companies and partners, you have to be aware that these repair costs for these vehicles are more expensive. And then we see the Chinese car brands starting to come into Europe. So these are just a small example. And you saw the one at the start of the presentation, the XPEG. But what's interesting about these manufacturers is they have a completely different way of selling these cars into the market. But not only selling these cars into the market, how they offer repair and service and warranty into the market. So they'll be sold through a sales partner, someone like Euronics, and then they will have groups set up to do their maintenance and repairs. So as insurers, you need to know, if these cars start to appear in your book, what's the protocol for repairs, warranties, replacement cars, things like that. So this is something we're watching at the moment, because this has the risk to change the network of the preferred suppliers on the current OEM car park. And then I mentioned earlier heads-up display and augmented reality. This is just like ADAS systems. In time, in the next 3-5 years, this equipment will become standard on cars. The difference with this type of glass and heads-up display is the glass is thinner at the bottom. Yeah, so your normal piece of glass in a car is the same thickness, but these glasses are actually thinner, so this information can project onto the glass. To give you an idea, heads-up display currently at the moment, 2%, 2027 it'll be 3.5%. This glass is really expensive and has to be absolute immaculate quality. Any deformities in the glass at all will impact how the information is displayed on the glass. More examples, augmented reality, again being pushed onto the windscreen of the glass. And this is to encourage the driver to not to look at other consoles in the car, such as sat-nav. Jaguar have a concept where they already have augmented reality in some of their vehicles. And as the car is driving, they're actually getting messages down the side of the glass related to car parking, to restaurants, 5-star reviews. This is all going to start to become standard in many of the glasses that we see in cars today. But what we do as Belron is we make sure that before these glasses hit the market and before a customer presents at Carglass Slovenia, that we've got the documentation and the technical data sheets from the OEMs to make sure that we can serve that customer for that glass replacement by following the OEM procedures. So the guys have access to all this information at their fingertips. And then just to cover off the last section, I mean, we see the features that are now in what used to be just a piece of glass is just now incredible. So we moved from 1980, this Citroen, 2 features, very easy, clear, tinted, that was it. But now we have 28 features in a car from Citroen today. And this is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. This is an example that we use from our supply chain in Europe to give you an idea of how the trends on this technology on the glass is growing. And you can see there by 2027, ADAS brackets alone are going to double. Yeah, and that's because the glass will become standard with these ADAS fitments. That's really important for your underwriting teams to see these trends of what's coming, because the more technology that's on the glass, the more expensive the glass. And then you have the add-on additional services, recalibrations, resets, and this all adds to the claims cost. And then we see larger, complex glass. So this is what they call the lucid air. But what's interesting about this car, it's not just the big glass. 1 LiDAR, 5 radar, 9 cameras, 4 surround view cameras, 1 driver monitoring. All of these are sensors and cameras. And if the car has any accident work, any chassis work, any glass work, then the chances are we're probably going to have to reset all those cameras. Yeah? And then, of course, we see that the glass is getting bigger in the cars. Yeah? 1940, 243% increase, but the glass continues to get bigger. And that's because as the vehicle manufacturers move towards these comfort technologies, the glass, they want the driver to have a nice experience. So their expectation is the driver will be doing other things in the car other than driving the car. So they want to make the cockpit, the environment, a nice place for the driver to look around, to answer emails. And this is why we start to see the manufacturers make the glass bigger in the car, yeah? But that causes us challenges, and we wanted to show you guys that it's not just about all this technology that's on the glass. This makes it more expensive to be shipped. So here, really good visual here. Normal piece of glass, just with a normal mirror bracket. We can pack 35 pieces of glass in a pallet. But when you start adding all these sensors and ADAS equipment on the glass, it heavily reduces how many you can actually add in the pallet to ship. Yeah? So that's the impact that it has just on the distribution and the supply chain. More technology takes up more space. And then if they continue to make these glasses bigger, that takes up even more space. Yeah? This is just a snapshot of the Dutch market. And what was really interesting about this, we worked in partnership with one of our big insurers in the Netherlands, and we showed them their type of business that they're actually writing at the moment. And the one that jumped out for them was the Kia Ceed. They had a lot of Kia Ceeds on their policy, and they would deem that cheap car, cheap to insure, cheap piece of glass in the car. But actually, by working with Carglass in the Netherlands, they found out that the Kia Ceed had a very, very, very expensive piece of glass in the car. And you can see there it went from 0 features, to having 5 features just as a standard model. So that just shows you how entry model cars now have equipment in these cars similar to Mercedes S-Class, for example. And when we did this study 3 years ago with Carglass Netherlands, it showed you that the Kia Ceed actually had a piece of glass in it similar to the cost of a Mercedes S-Class. And that was excluding any recalibration. So that just gave the underwriters an insight into how they underwrite that business on that particular model of vehicle. And then we see as glass evolution in non-repair areas could have the potential impact on what we call repair opportunities. So here you see the areas being driven by the OEMs where we can and cannot perform a glass repair. Yeah? So this is restricting the opportunities, what we call the repair opportunities, to repair these types of glass. Some of the Subaru models that have this type of technology, we cannot repair the top 1/3 of the glass because those cameras are looking in that area, and if they see any repair or any chip, then their accuracy could be affected. One of the hot topics we have in Belron at the moment, and certainly in Carglass Slovenia, is just our commitment to you about being a responsible business and being a responsible business partner. We're getting many requests from many insurance companies across the world asking us to prove what we actually do. So I just thought I would share with you some of the work that we're doing as Belron. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Carglass Slovenia follow the guidelines that we set down as Belron. We support the UN Global Compact Agreement. We already have some of our countries in gold in EcoVadis. As Belron, as Belron Group, we recycle 72% of our waste, and our aim is to get that to 100%. Boris told me yesterday you guys have 100% of your glass is recycled, which is incredible. But we do have some challenges in some of our markets, such as in Australia, they do not recycle glass. There isn't a solution, so we will put a solution in for that. And we aim to reducing what we call our prime job, CO2 emissions. So this is a commitment Belron has given. This is our responsible business framework, and this is pretty much the framework that our corporate countries and our franchise countries follow. And I just wanted to give you an insight of how seriously Belron and Carglass take being a responsible business partner. As Belron, we've 2 ESG-linked loans, and our commitment is to get to 95% recycling by 25 and have science-based targets validated by 2024. So this is the big push. And as insurance companies, we know you guys are under pressure to follow similar responsible business partner guidelines. Repair has always been part of the DNA of Belron and certainly of Carglass Slovenia. I just wanted to show you how important this is for the environment. We know that our repair strategy is greener than replacement. 70% of repair results in at least a repair results in at least 70% carbon emissions than a replacement. And repairs save over 2/3 of the carbon footprint used for a replacement. So we don't only repair because it's in our DNA. We repair to give the insurer cost savings, but also to continue to protect the environment. But we don't stop there. We're always looking at new ways of how we can do business more responsibly and better. So we've recently, in the last 2 weeks, I just shared a new bonding solution with our franchise markets. And this is something that we've worked on in relation to the waste that comes from how not just the glass waste, but the chemical waste that we use for installing the windscreens. So what we've done is we've came up with a new product. It will be available to Carglass Slovenia in the coming months. And just by moving how the supplier that we had to another supplier and a different bonding solution, we're able to reduce, as Belron, 23 tons of metal waste that comes from the primer bottles, because this new product in effect will be primerless. And then also the reduction in waste from what we call the pre-treatment bottles. So we're always looking for new ways is that we can do business more responsibly and then share with these guys how they can take advantage of these developments that we have. So we know that technology trends continue to impact our joint businesses. You see more ADAS cameras in vehicles, which will lead to more recalibrations. Increasing sensor technology, leading to multiple sensor calibrations. So we talked about fusion sensor. We saw the images there on glass, how the complexity of the glass continues. And then we see the vehicle manufacturers moving to software-defined vehicles, which is making it difficult to gain access other than going through these services. Just before I wrap up here, my commitment to you as Carglass's customers is that we'll continue to monitor these trends to make sure that this team here in Slovenia is prepared to deal with every single job that comes to them and release the customer safely after a glass repair or replacement. We know the road to autonomy continues with the vehicle manufacturers focusing in particular in the level 2 area. ADAS camera penetration is going to increase because of the EU mandate, which will mean more recalibrations after glass replacements. Sensor fusion will become more and more complex, so multiple sensors having to be recalibrated after any work is done on a vehicle. Access to software. You can see how serious we are taking this as Belron. And when we take this case against FCA, the whole aftermarket benefits, this is not something for Belron only to benefit. We're saying that what they've done is unfair and they need to continue to let us have access to these vehicles. Electric vehicles, we know they're going to continue to be pushed into these markets. And the rise of electric cars will impact what we call your model mix within your insurance portfolio. I mean, really for me, we do these regularly, and I would encourage you to keep in touch with the team and ask for regular updates on these trends, and we can share with you what we see in all markets across the world. Thank you so much for your time today.